How will President Trump respond to this latest setback? Well, here's a tweet just in this morning. Quote, the opinion of this so-called judge. Hey, can I stop right there? Hold on. Just freeze the image. So-called judge? It's a federal judge appointed by President George W. Bush. I try and show the office of the president respect in the way that he ought to be showing respect for a member of the federal judiciary with a lifetime appointment. That's not right. Hey, Selena, I'm sorry to drag you into this, but come on, you're the commander-in-chief. You can't be disappointed with the outcome of a federal case and say, well, the so-called judge. He did that with Judge Curiel in the Trump University case, and I thought it was appalling.
But are you really surprised? I mean, this is the way that he communicates. We every day, every minute, every hour, we're breathlessly reporting on how surprised we are by his behavior. And while it is completely different from President Obama, President Bush, President Clinton, and so on, this is exactly what people voted for, whether you like it or not. The people that showed up to vote in the states that count, they wanted this disruption. They wanted this guy that talks the way he does. Now, that might not sit well with a lot of people, but this is who he is, and it's not going to change.
Obama Fini, I love you, Obama.
The street performer known as Pio and his dog Chocolate sum up how many in Cuba these days feel about the new U.S. president.
Trump today is president. Do you like? My dog don't like Trump. Do you like Trump?
Trump's Latin America policies and a promised harder line on Cuba have so far been received negatively on the communist-run island. We are watching him, Pio says. He wants to build a wall, to do this, to do that. A lot of strange things. Former President Obama dramatically changed the U.S.'s Cold War-era policy towards Cuba, reopening the American embassy in Havana, and became the first sitting U.S. president to visit the island since 1928. Direct flight service was reestablished in 2016 between the U.S. and Cuba. U.S. cruise ships are making frequent stops here, and the island is again crawling with American visitors. But during the presidential campaign, Trump promised to take a tougher stance on Cuba.
But all of the concessions that Barack Obama has granted the Castro regime were done through executive order, which means the next president can reverse them. And that I will do unless the Castro regime meets our demands. Those demands will include religious and political freedom for the Cuban people, and the freeing of political prisoners.
Members of Trump's administration say Obama's Cuba policy is not helping regular Cubans, just the government that oppresses them. Take a walk down just about any street in Old Havana and you'll see a country's economy changing before your very eyes. More Cubans are beginning to open up restaurants, beginning to rent out their homes, and that's economic activity that's being driven in large part by the new U.S. policy towards Cuba. Many people here say they're starting to see the benefits of that policy. One of them is Nelson Rodriguez Tamayo, who last year opened his restaurant, which serves all-day breakfast and seems to always be full of visitors from the U.S., something that could change if Trump retightens travel restrictions to Cuba.
I got many Americans who come.
And what would you like to see happen between our two countries?
Well, they have a good relationship, they can make business together, fair business together, and yeah, I think it should continue. I don't know what's going to happen with the new president.
Cuban President Raul Castro says he wants to work with Trump, but there could be clashes. Castro also says Cuba won't make any concessions to the U.S., and in January staged a rare military parade. Even comedians like Pio say Trump's tough talk on Cuba is no laughing matter. If he is tougher, he's going to find a tougher people here, Pio says. The people will resist him here, and he will be just one more that goes into history. He should loosen the screws, like Obama.
Hey, Obama good, yes, Obama good. And Trump, oh yeah.
Time will tell, though, if Trump's stance on Cuba has more bark than bite. Patrick Ottman, CNN Havana.
It does not in any way obviate the fact that this president is totally bound by this order. We expect him to abide by this order. We will not accept any deviation from this order whatsoever. The Constitution is supreme in this country, and frankly, I'm proud that Washington State has led the country in standing up for the basic values and will not allow anyone, including the President in Washington, D.C., to contravene those values. And we had tonight a federal judge who was appointed by Republican President George W. Bush decide a very forceful decision, frankly, that this is a country that we are not going to allow the tests of religion to determine who comes in our country. We are not going to allow decisions that actually jeopardize our national security. Look, the fact is in this case that the people from these 7 countries, there have been 700,000 refugees admitted since the disaster of September 11th, and not one incident has occasioned where people from these 7 countries caused a fatal terrorist act. So I know they want to talk about aliens. Let me tell you what they call aliens. They're Microsoft engineers. They're Boeing salesmen. They're cancer researchers. They're students at the University of Washington who are helping build my state economically. And this order hurts my whole state's economy besides being unconstitutional. So I'm quite glad that this federal court has stood up and provided what this nation needs, which are checks and balances, and we expect this president to follow them.
Carol, as the nation celebrates the Super Bowl, everyone at CNN is celebrating you. It's your last day, and your team wants you, their MVP, to know just how much you are loved. Carol, take a look at this.
Stand by. 5, 4, 3.
I'm Carol Costello. Wow, we have a great audience.
Ohio still undecided because of the question over provisional ballots.
Remember your roots, Carol, if you're watching right now. Your roots right here in the Situation Room, where you always are welcome back.
How will history remember Pope John Paul II? Making its way across the Gulf of Mexico, Katrina is expected to be a Category 3 or 4 storm when it makes landfall again on Monday.
We're all going to miss you at CNN and how lucky HLN is, and particularly your husband, to have you back home in LA.
We're remembering the life and legacy of Michael Jackson, the king of pop, dead at the age of 50. What brought Lehman Brothers down?
Your voice will be missed, and I'm very glad you're going to be on HLN, and I look forward to seeing you when I go to LA. This is another great reason to go to LA. And in fact, why are we all living here? Why don't we all move to LA? You're very smart.
The Louisiana National Guard has been out in force trying to put up barriers to stop an oily flow of water if it happens from washing ashore.
We're going to miss you here on the CNN side, so don't be a stranger.
In the wake of Japan's earthquake and devastating tsunami, thousands are missing.
I will miss seeing your face every morning on CNN. But I understand, your husband's kind of hot, and he's kind of smart, and you should go be with him.
Breaking news, Al-Qaeda has released a statement confirming the death of its founder, Osama bin Laden.
On to New Horizons, HLN, where we also do sports and we have puppies.
Everybody, Boston strong!
Thank you for being so wonderful to me from day one, for welcoming me, for being gracious and kind, and just all around incredible.
Now to the investigation into what happened aboard Flight 370.
Carol Costello, great reporter, great interviewer, great person. Carol, bon voyage.
Just want to get another big cheer from the crowd. Hey, excited for Pope Francis? Yay!
Cannot wait to have you here in the Golden State. And look, I'm not the only one who's excited about it. Apparently these yahoos are too.
Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump are neck and neck.
Hi, Carol. Hi, members of Carol's team. I just want you to know how much I love you and how eager I am for you to actually live here in the house. I hope we can get along. We might need a dog. But thanks to everybody who's with you now for, as you know, and as you often tell me, for making your show such a success.
Thank you for joining me live. I'm Carol Costello. Bourbon and Baldwin are next. And thanks to all of you. I don't know. They just told me to talk and I can't. Oh, my gosh. I mean, what can I say? Again, I just want to thank all of you for watching me on so many mornings through so many things. And I don't think I could go on, but thank you so much. And I will miss you.
They give you these little gas heaters to heat up, and if you don't unclog it, a fire breaks up. And by the time they got him, the plastic melted and fell on his face and feet.
It was Dilbereen Mussin's first birthday, Iraq, January 4th, 2016. In an instant, the soft cartilage of his nose, his lips, and most of his face ravaged. The images are tough to see.
He realizes there's something different about them and him. And it's really, really sad because these kids, they run away. They're already scared of him.
The name Dilbereen means wounded heart, and his story is complicated. It's a story of being trapped, his Yazidi family fleeing from ISIS to this refugee camp, and now trapped in the United States without his parents. You see, this woman, Adlai Kajan, is not Dilbereen's mother. She's not even a relative. She is simply a kind stranger. Dilbereen's parents, a world away, but we tracked them down in northern Iraq. It's really hard, his father said. He's a little boy. He needs his parents. So what happened here? Well, after the fire and burns, the British aid group, Road to Peace, arranged for Dilbereen and his father, Agil, to come to Shriners Hospital for Children in Boston. That was for the first of a series of operations to slowly release the contractures of his chin and his lower lip, allowing him to take a bottle again. But with his wife about to give birth back in Iraq, Agil couldn't stay, and he begged Adlai to watch after his son.
And at that point, they say to you, please take care of Dilbereen.
Yeah, so
we'll be back.
Yes, so, they said we'll be back, 4 to 6 weeks the most, because they weren't sure of the exact due date for his wife. 6 weeks go by, and then a month, 2 months, and now we're at 3 months.
When Dilbereen's little brother was born, the day after the election, his parents, grateful that the United States had provided medical care, decided to name their newborn son Trump. That's right, Trump Agil Mohsen. We want to show our appreciation to America for what they're doing for our boy. That's why we named him Trump. Then, despite being initially approved, in early January, Agil and Flosa's visas were revoked. They were in Iraq. 2-year-old Dilbereen was in the United States. His father said they didn't give us visas because they thought we would go there and stay. We want to finish our son's treatment and then return home. CNN did reach out to the State Department for comment and were told, quote, "We are not able to discuss the details of any visa case." And then things got even worse.
Secondly, I'm establishing new vetting measures to keep radical Islamic terrorists out of the United States of America.
President Trump likely made it impossible that his namesake, along with mom and dad, will travel to the United States anytime soon.
That's what we're afraid of, is they have to wait 90 days, which baby Dilbereen doesn't have that. He needs his surgery as soon as possible.
What's the sentiment or the emotion? Are they angry?
Not really, just sad and hopeless. They don't know what to do.
You think there'll be an exception made?
We're praying for that.
Let me assure you that President Trump's administration places a high priority on this region and specifically on long-term allies like Japan. As I told Minister Inada, the United States remains committed to the defense of Japan under the Treaty of Mutual Security, and we stand ready to enhance our alliance to the benefit of regional peace, prosperity, and freedom. Today, the Minister and I discussed the security situation, and I made clear that our long-standing policy on the Senkaku Islands stands. The United States will continue to recognize Japanese administration of the islands, and as such, Article 5 of the U.S.-Japan Security Treaty applies. As the Japanese people know so well, jointly we face many security challenges in this region. From the threat of nuclear and missile provocations by North Korea to increasingly confrontational behavior by China in the East and South China Seas, we recognize the changing security situation.
I, Donald John Trump, do solemnly swear.
His pro-business platform and push for jobs helped him win the White House. But to Uber, Donald Trump has become a toxic liability.
No more Uber for me.
With scores of customers publicly deleting their accounts, Uber's embattled CEO resigned from the president's business council, the 40-year-old billionaire under enormous pressure from both customers and his own employees, who felt that a close connection to Trump could destroy the company's image. Travis Kalanick faced withering criticism for agreeing to take a seat on the president's economic council. But in the wake of the president's controversial immigration and travel ban for citizens of 7 countries, he was forced to reconsider. In a statement to employees, Uber's Kalanick writes, "Joining the group was not meant to be an endorsement of the president or his agenda, but unfortunately, it has been misinterpreted to be exactly that." Uber's public troubles began last week as thousands at New York's JFK Airport marched in protest of the ban. The local taxi union called for a 1-hour strike in a show of solidarity. Minutes after the strike, Uber moved in and tweeted it was disabling its surge pricing feature. The move sparked immediate backlash as thousands saw it as an attempt to profit from the strike, when the company says it was actually the opposite. But the hashtag #DeleteUber gained instant traction.
Uber decided to essentially cross the picket lines. That's how it was perceived by reducing the surge pricing to get people to the airport when the taxi drivers were on strike. Well, that ticked a lot of people off, and it felt like it was contributing to supporting this very negative action that a lot of people felt about the immigration ban.
The PR blunder led to a surge in business for its much smaller competitor Lyft, which even briefly surpassed Uber in downloads. Dane Kaiser drives an Uber full-time.
So they're coming in here and they're saying, hey, we almost didn't take Uber today. We really weren't sure if we should. We were going to go with Lyft or we were going to take a taxi.
The backlash highlights the danger Silicon Valley companies may face by working closely with the new president. The executive order is seen as being deeply offensive to tech workers, many of them immigrants themselves. Kalanick called the order wrong and unjust and pledged $3 million for drivers facing immigration hardship.
Right now, Trump really is pretty radioactive to Silicon Valley. People are really afraid of getting themselves associated with them.
In his email to employees, Kalanick says he briefly spoke with the president to say he was withdrawing from the council. While Lyft has certainly been the beneficiary of all this, it should be noted that 2 of its key investors also have close ties to Trump. Financier Carl Icahn and Silicon Valley executive Peter Thiel, who spoke in support of Trump at the Republican National Convention.
Yeah, can you just explain what essentially your arguments are on the constitutionality of the executive order?
You bet. There are multiple, but I'll keep it very short and brief in the interest of time. So we have a variety of constitutional arguments that include, for example, violations of due process, equal protection, violation of the First Amendment Establishment Clause in relation to religion. So we have a bucket of constitutional claims that were discussed in court today. In addition, we allege violations of statutes like, they may sound technical, but the Administrative Procedures Act. Well, that's not technical. For example, President Obama's the Dreamers Act that he put into place was shut down because of a claim based on that act, for example, when Republican AGs sued the Obama administration. So we have 2 different buckets of claims, and the judge felt we were likely to prevail on the merits when he ultimately decides on that, and that was part of why he granted our temporary restraining order this evening.
So does, this is a dumb question, but does your case then continue in front of this judge?
No, it's not a dumb question at all, Anderson. This can be a little bit confusing. So yes, eventually the judge will reach what we call the merits, make a final decision. But I think it's fair to say most lawyers would say that if a judge grants you that temporary restraining order, because one of the requirements to do it is the judge concluding that you are likely to prevail ultimately on the merits, that bodes well for our case, as you might imagine. I just want to say, look, it's, in a courtroom, it is not the loudest voice that prevails, Anderson. It's the Constitution. And Judge Robart is an appointee of George W. Bush, and he took the extraordinary step of granting a TRO to shut down implementation of this executive order because of the adverse impact to people in my state. Attorneys have been in my office around the clock for 6 days to make this happen. So, as a lawyer, it's why you go to law school, right? To do something that benefits the people you serve, and that upholds the rule of law and the Constitution. So, to say it was the best day of my professional life would be an understatement.
He's trying to bring business back to the United States.
When you look at the reason why Donald Trump unexpectedly flipped the state of Wisconsin, look no further than this bar right outside of Milwaukee. It caters to a lot of Harley-Davidson employees who come from the plant just a few miles away. The patrons have plenty of praise for the president and find little tolerance for those protesting against him.
Get over it. He's in. He's in, and just stop it. Stop it.
Kim Gamroth owns this bar and says her feelings mirror those of many in the community, a community that voted for Trump over Hillary Clinton by nearly 2-1. Donnie Belusic is a Trump supporter. Belusic says he worked at Harley-Davidson for more than 40 years before he retired and was also a small business owner.
They cost me a good business I had, like a bar like this. You know, all of a sudden certain people move in the area and the white people move out.
Do you mean certain people who look like me? Or?
Well, the neighborhood changed like 90% within 2 years. And white people won't come in, and I had to sell it.
I wonder, going forward, does it leave you with an unfavorable view of black people, Mexican people?
Yes, it does. I'll be honest with you. I'm very prejudiced, and a lot of people know that.
Belusic says his point of view is unedited, one that he says few people like him share publicly.
Do you believe that a lot of other people who feel the way you do also voted for Trump because they feel the way you do?
They do, trust me.
Jennifer Murray and Kim Gamroth say they don't share Belusic's views and that they welcome all who come to the bar, no matter their race. But they support Trump and are happy with what they've seen so far.
He is backing up what he had said. You know, he's finally standing up for America, for the citizens of America,
For small businesses, for everybody who voted for him, that he said what he was going to do.
And he's doing it.
They also hope the president will keep pressuring U.S. companies to make more products in the United States. Harley-Davidson, for example, assembles bikes in the United States, but makes many parts overseas in countries like Mexico. Ross Winkelbauer, the head of the local steelworkers union, is encouraged by Trump pulling out of the Trans-Pacific Partnership, which he says was not good for U.S. workers. But he's personally troubled by the administration's immigration ban.
The Green Lady, the Statue of Liberty, you know, welcome. And I just believe that's the way it should be.
Patrons such as Donnie Belusic are on board with what Trump has done so far and hope he continues to fulfill his promises.
I hope he gets another 4 years after this one. It's got to be better than the Democrats.
What could be a stunning blow to President Trump's travel ban? A federal judge at this hour granting a Washington Attorney General's request to immediately halt President Trump's executive order on immigration nationwide. Okay, the Attorney General, Bob Ferguson, spoke just moments ago about his request for a temporary block. Literally just finished speaking. Here's part of what he said.
The short answer is yes. Want to be very clear. What the judge announced today was nationwide. The president's executive order does not apply.
What's about to happen at JFK, at LAX, at O'Hare, at Hartsfield? I mean, are they about to say no longer? This can't be, I mean, this now is the law of the land, that they're going to go back to the way things were right now?
That's right. I mean, that's if they follow the ruling of the judge, and federal judges have nationwide jurisdiction on constitutional matters. If this executive order is a legal nullity, as the lawyers say at the moment, it does not apply anywhere in the United States, and that's where we are right now until and unless an appeals court steps in.
Republicans are steamrolling Democrats, slashing regulations from the Obama era using an obscure law called the Congressional Review Act.
It has been used once in the past before, but now we're seeing it at least 5 times this week alone, and we've heard reports that could reach 15 total regulations, maybe even 20 total regulations.
This week, Republicans repealed regulations preventing mining companies from dumping their waste in local waterways, limiting greenhouse emissions from energy companies, and requiring the Social Security Administration to share medical information with the FBI. The Congressional Review Act allows for a quick rollback on regulations passed in the last 6 months of the Obama presidency with a simple majority vote.
Okay.
Once the president signs off, the agency cannot reenact a similar rule, an unprecedented tactic to overturn multiple laws from a previous administration. On Thursday, House Republicans voted to repeal a gun background check that required the Social Security Administration to disclose to the FBI information about people who are considered incapable of managing their own disability benefits due to mental illness. Critics said the rule unfairly targeted people who were not dangerously mentally ill. The National Rifle Association opposed the rule, and so did the ACLU.
I don't think that the solution to gun control and to the problems of gun violence is to go and scapegoat another community, a community of people that includes millions and millions of people with some kind of mental health issue.
Supporters of the rule argue the move will mean more gun violence and point out what they call the hypocrisy of Republicans who have said this in the past.
And mental illness is what we have found in these mass shootings, one of the sources of the problems.
More than 50 regulations are vulnerable, from the Healthy Hunger-Free Kids Act that sets nutrition standards for school lunches to a regulation intended to increase access to treatment for opioid use. They're moves that have right-leaning advocacy groups applauding.
The stars really have aligned. We have Republican Congress, Republican president, and an outgoing Democratic administration.
My fellow Americans, this week I nominated Neil Gorsuch for the United States Supreme Court. Judge Gorsuch is one of the most qualified people ever to be nominated for this post. He's a graduate of Columbia, Harvard, and Oxford. He's a man of principle. He has an impeccable resume. He's widely respected by everyone. And Judge Gorsuch's proven track record upholding the Constitution makes him the ideal person to fill the vacancy left by the late, great Antonin Scalia, a truly fabulous justice. 10 years ago, the Senate unanimously approved Judge Gorsuch's nomination to serve on the 10th Circuit Court of Appeals. I urge members of both parties to support Judge Gorsuch and, in so doing, to protect our laws and our freedoms. This week, we also took significant action to roll back the massive regulation that is devastating our economy and crippling American companies and jobs. That's why I've issued a new executive order to create a permanent structure of regulatory reduction. This order requires that for every one new regulation, 2 old regulations must, and I mean must, be eliminated. It's out of control. The January employment report shows that the private sector added 237,000 jobs last month. A lot of that has to do with the spirit our country now has. Job growth far surpassed expectations in January, and the labor force participation also grew, so you can be encouraged about the progress of our economy. It's going to be a whole new ballgame. But there is still much work to do, that I can tell you. Also this week, on the first day, Black History Month, I was pleased to host African American leaders at the White House. We're determined to deliver more opportunity, jobs, and safety for the African American citizens of our country. America can really never, ever rest until children of every color are fully included in the American dream. So important. I think probably one of my most, and maybe my most important goal. It is our mutual duty and obligation to make sure this happens. At Dover Air Force Base on Wednesday, I joined the family of Chief Special Warfare Operator William Ryan Owens as our fallen hero was returned home, a great man. Chief Owens gave his life for his country and for our people. Our debt to him and his family, a beautiful family, is eternal. God has truly blessed this nation to have given us such a brave and selfless patriot as Ryan. We will never forget him. We will never, ever forget those who serve, believe me. And I will never forget that my responsibility is to keep you, the American people, safe and free. That's why last week I signed an executive order to help keep terrorists out of our country. The executive order establishes a process to develop new vetting and mechanisms to ensure those coming into America love and support our people, that they have good intentions. On every single front, we are working to deliver for American workers and American families. You, the law-abiding citizens of this country, are my total priority. Your safety, your jobs, and your wages guide our decisions. We are here to serve you, the great and loyal citizens of the United States of America. The forgotten men and women will never be forgotten again, because from now on, it's going to be America first. That's how I got elected. That's why you voted for me, and I will never forget it. God bless you, and God bless America.
عجلاتك